Do you know that in 20 years' time, the continent of Africa will have more young people than the rest of the world combined? Africa will be the mother of the food market and it will bring food to your table. In today's episode on MoloMolo African Tech Stories, we are going to be challenged about what it means to be African and being able to provide food across the world. Welcome to another episode of African Tech Stories. I'm Dr. Polan Kantoe. Let's go. For today's episode, we are joined by a very exclusive guest, our first guest for the year 2025. His name is Olawale Rotimi Opeyemi. Olawale is a founder, chief executive of JR Farms. This is a national, multinational actually, family agribusiness company with operations in France, Nigeria, I believe Rwanda and Zambia, if I'm not mistaken. And this is an agribusiness, agri-food consultancy with more than a decade experience. He is, Olawale, working with global and regional partners, the private sector, multinational institutions and governments across the world. Over the years, he has, through JR Farms, worked closely with global partners and international labor organization, food and agriculture organizations like the UN, World Food Programs, Rwanda Development Board, French government too, and some others to ensure indeed that his mission to bring sustainable food solutions to African communities is a reality. He's also and we'll hear more about that, right? He's pursuing a PhD. We'll hear more about that, whether he's done or what's happening there, and focused on evolution of multinational agri-food companies and their role in African food systems. Olawale, thank you so much for joining MoloMolo African Tech Stories.
Thank you for having me this morning or this afternoon.
Yeah, depending, I think you are calling
depending
me.
on the time, depending on the time the listeners are around the world.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought we should start very simply, right? So if I were to ask you, and I ask this to every guest, if I were to ask your wife or your kids who Olawale is, what would they say?
Yeah, so this reminds me of strategy safari, describing management like a piece of elephant. So it depends on where you talk. It tells you what it is or would determine the description. So maybe, of course, if you ask my daughters, who is Olawale, I'll say, yeah, he's our daddy. And then if you ask my wife, bro, he's my husband. And maybe to the employees of the airport, like, oh, he's our employer. Right, yeah. But of course, to introduce myself, my name is Olawale Rotimi Opeyemi, originally from Nigeria. Yeah, I'm the founder and the CEO of JR Farms, which is now become a group. Within the group, we have JR Farms, we have JR Coffee, we have JR Homes, we have JR Cakes and Cuisine, which is primarily the business of my wife. Started agribusiness in 2012, and then started JR Farms with my wife in 12 years ago. That was 2013. Yeah, it will be 12 years by May. Yeah, and here we are developing. I'm quite passionate about agribusiness for our development, youth employment. Have my first and second degree in philosophy of religion. Then currently having my PhD in market innovation in Wageningen University in the Netherlands. In between, I've had to do some executive programs. In between, I studied agribusiness management in Lagos Business School. Yeah, so I mean that's like an overview of who I am. Yeah, you're mute.
Thanks. So I mean, thanks for introduction. I think we are really excited for this conversation. So should I call you Doctor?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
No.
All right. Okay. So you're not there yet. Okay. Is there anything missing?
I know. I'm still writing my thesis. So
Okay. Nice.
yeah. So it's a long journey anyway.
I know, I know. Trust me, I know it very well. So, Olawale, I thought we should just kind of get into why agriculture, why and also why agriculture in a business sense. I guess from a personal level, but also just, why does it matter so much to you?
First, I would say it's a passion for me. I grew up in an agrarian community called Oyo in southwest Nigeria. So I practically grew up seeing all this in the neighborhood. My uncle from my mother's side also had a cassava processing factory. So we spent our holidays with him in when we were in high school. So pretty much what we all do during the holidays, we wake up in the morning, go with some children to the cassava factory. It was really fun, of course, throwing cassava, peeling cassava, making Gary together with them, but it actually built my passion and it was what I wanted to do. Then next to that, we see that population is growing very fast in Africa, for example. Around the world is the same thing, but Africa is growing very fast. Population is expected to double of what it was in 2015 by 2050. And food is mandatory, it's not optional. It's not, oh, I've eaten today, I don't want to eat until next year. I mean, the one you had this morning, you have to refuel in the afternoon, you have to refuel in the evening, or even more frequently, depending on your kind of person. So there's a need, of course, with this growing population, more and more young people, or not even young people, more and more people are less interested in agri-food because it's considered dirty, not only in Africa, but around the world. We have the figures from FAO. The average age for the farmer globally is between 55 to 60, right? So, and the question is in the next, and we have very high rural urban migration. So people are leaving the rural areas and going to the urban areas, pretty much to look for more opportunities. Then you have technology which has come to the world today. So you have social media. When you read online or you see online, you see your counterparts in the US or in Europe who are traveling for holidays and doing all this work. I mean, you don't want to be a farmer. You don't want to be on a farmer in Syria. Right, but someone has to do it. Food has to come to our tables. AI is not going to give us food. And so I saw the necessity to involved in this, not only to get involved, but also to use my journey to inspire more and more people to get involved in this. Because some sectors are more like they're more like calling, life calling. Agri-food is one of them. It's just like the medical science. It's a service to humanity. It's not just a job. I mean, it's
Mm,
what we all need to survive. You know, you may live your life without an accountant, maybe. I mean, you may live your life without some kind of profession. Yeah, depending on where you live, you may live your life never knowing how to drive, you know. So, but you cannot live your life without food. You cannot live your life without medicine or medical attention all through your lifetime. You see, so it's just an essential sector. So I felt passion is there. Also, the economic and social justification is there. So I decided and said, well, I have to take up this, which is of course a rare thing, particularly for young people, particularly also for the kind of, I mean, continent we're coming from. In Africa, you don't consider agri-food or agribusiness or farming an important job to do, right? You face a lot of I would say kind of a discriminatory,
mm,
even from your friends, even from family, like, oh, why do you want to do this? Why are you doing this? Or from your friends, you're like, okay, we all go out and we're introducing ourselves. I would say I'm a computer scientist, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer. What are you going to say you are? You're a farmer. Like, okay. So, all right. Yeah. So you also have
yes.
all these factors that militate against people getting involved. Yeah, but I mean, I saw the need, the passion is there, and I felt like, okay, we have to take this up, and I don't regret it.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah,
I think that's a very interesting take and so refreshing to hear. One, I think, like you said, somebody has to do it, number one.
yeah,
But I think what you also potentially mean is somebody has to do it and do it well.
very
And
true.
and I think that's probably one of the things that keeps people potentially like us who are in tech or whatever away is like, man, can I do this well? Can I really bring about what I see here in Europe well packaged, well quality control and so forth within the environment that our African countries are facing. And that leads me to the next question is how have you found a way of communicating this business idea to the diaspora who's not necessarily living those situations, not necessarily in those specific environments, and really rallying beyond the cause? How have you managed to kind of communicate your ideas to them?
Interestingly, we didn't set out to really communicate ideas to diasporans. So
Mm,
it's never been like an approach for us
okay.
to communicate anything to diasporans. The goal is, I mean, food is global, irrespective of where you're coming from. I mean,
Hmm.
there are few things that connect humanity together, and food is one of them, right? Irrespective of who you are, where you're coming from, you have to eat. For us, where it's never been a strategy or an approach for me. I have a deep understanding that my sector, with the sector which I work, is a global sector. I mean, so we have this global approach, global orientation towards it, and which is the reason why, of course, operating from Africa, we've expanded to Europe, and we're in the future, we're still going to expand. You know, right now we have coffee in France, which is now 2 days ago was listed on Amazon, available for the entire European Union market. Right. So, and then we have now a few clients in France who are buying our coffee, and we're going to develop that, open our coffee shops in France. So, for me, it's a global approach, right? Because whether you're white, black, purple, pink, whatever you are, you have to eat,
Yeah.
right? And food is something that connects everybody together, right? So, we're not setting out for, we're not operating with a mindset of we have to say this to diasporans or Africans in diasporans, or
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
just have to operate globally, right? And I think this is really important, maybe for African descent, not to narrow ideas or not to narrow approaches to diasporans or Africans in diaspora.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we have global giants in Africa today. We have multinational companies, food companies that have come from different parts of the world, and they feed us.
Yeah.
They feed. Yeah, I mean, we they were brave enough with their knowledge, with their ideas to take the risk come to Africa. The same way we have to also be brave. I mean, and be global in our thinking. You see, so a few times we talk to people like, oh, when you open a coffee shop in Paris, is it going to be African menu? I'm like, no, it's not going to be African menu. It's the coffee shop for everybody. I'm not selling coffee for Africans. You know, anybody can come. Of course, the coffee is coming from Africa, but it's a coffee shop for everyone. So anybody can come, whether you're purple, black, pink, whatever you are, you can come and have coffee,
Yeah.
right? So this is the kind of mindset you see global giants like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is American, but it's everywhere in Africa. You see other Nestle is there, Nestle rather is there, Unilever is there. They're all over the place. They are not African businesses, but they feed Africans, right?
Yeah.
So I think this really important mindset that we need to possess as Africans. And the world has become very globalized nowadays, right? So whatever happens, I mean, we see events, activities happening in one country affecting the other countries, even though they are very far away,
Hmm.
right? So we see that we're now in a global village. So you need to be you don't need to look at the world, or you don't need to look at your ideas within the framework of your ecosystem. You need to look at it within the framework of the world, right?
Yeah.
This is the way we look at it, or I look at it.
Yeah, no, very good point. I think that's something we always struggle with, right? And you know what I mean. And I think that so that question really wants to kind of see your viewpoint. And I think this is such a strong point you're making because the narrow down or the belittling of our ideas is got
Yep.
a lot to do with us narrowing just to supposedly start or just focus on what we know or what we believe will rally behind us for whatever reason
Yeah,
and forgetting that indeed we are here just to service whoever is willing to take our product and not
exactly.
doesn't matter where they come from. Very good point.
Exactly.
Which leads me to the next question. How have you been able to leverage, or what are some key elements when it comes to partnership? Of course, you haven't done this, by yourself. So, what are some key elements that you found in creating effective partnerships that have really helped JR Farms and all the other businesses with it to really move to the next level of being sustainable and moving forward?
Yeah, like you said, we have not achieved this alone. Partnership is very important, and you cannot grow or scale without partnership. First is you need to be able to, you need to know what you're doing before you are able to tell other people what you're doing for
Hmm.
them to become your partners. So for us, I mean, the first thing we have clarity of the vision. I have very clear idea of what we're doing. And which is one thing that maybe needs to be done by a lot of entrepreneurs coming from Africa. A lot of times we're very quick to announce things, to say we're scaling, we're growing, and on, but we're yet to solidify what we're doing,
Yeah.
right? So you need to really understand what you're doing because you cannot tell people to join you on a journey you yourself you don't know about, right? So
Yeah.
you need to really understand what you're doing, and it comes with starting, testing the concepts, documentation. I mean, this is something documentation is not very common for Africans.
I know.
But yeah, for example, in Japan, so we document every process of our journey, pictures, videos, writings. For example, in the year 2024, we have in the end of 2024, we have series of meetings. In the start of 2025, we're having serious meetings. And what is the meetings all about? We call them return on experience. I mean, how have we fared in 2024? What did we get right? What did we get wrong? And we're documenting them, putting them in the company records. It goes on the company cloud so that we have them in record and we can look forward as we plan for the coming years. And also, all the processes are documented. For example, we have change of staff. I'm not in Nigeria today. Business is running. I'm not in Rwanda. Business is running. The systems are there. Pure documentation. We have a bakery. You know what you have to do when you come in. Everything is written and pasted. When you come in as a staff, there are things you have to learn, the trainings you have to go through. We have a staff handbook. You have to go through all these processes. So you need first to understand what you're doing. You need to first be grounded before you go and talk to people that this is what I'm trying to do. Next to that, of course, also within the scope of understanding what you're doing, you need to also define your values. What are your values? Because this will also determine the kind of partners you attract.
Hmm.
What are your values? For example, is integrity a value for you? Is cooperation a value for you? Is communication a value for you? Being apolitical, for example, in Japan, we are not political. You see, so I mean, it's part of our system. You don't go in a country and you make comments or you join political activities. We're in business, whoever is in government, we don't care, right? We only have to follow the laws and do what we have to do as a business and move on.
Yeah.
So we analyze political situations. For example, Trump is going to be president in the next few days. As a company, we're asking ourselves, okay, how does this affect us, right? It sounds very big, right? Because we're still a small company. But the reality is that even to the villages in Africa or villages in Asia, anywhere in the world, this decision, this victory or this inauguration of Trump is going to affect everybody. The policies, one way
Yeah.
or the other, are going to affect everybody's life.
Yeah.
So we look at all these things, So you need to understand your values as a business. Okay, this is what I stand for. This is what I don't stand for. Then
Hmm.
it determines who you attract. So when you know that, of course, you have to set for the partners that you have in mind. You
Yeah.
have to go after them. You have to write to them. You have to have meetings with them. You have to communicate your vision to them.
Hmm.
So, and generally, you have to possess all the soft skills. As a brand, you need to have integrity, commitment to your partners. Is very important. Also, not to grow too fast because a lot of times you want to scale very fast. And, 2 days ago, I was talking to someone and I said, growth can kill. Yeah, because we are just sold one of our coffee shops in one of the African countries. And so why did you sell it? And, I mean, we had to sell it because, turn it to a license. So because there was a lot of management demand from our side, right? It's good. There's a lot of management demand. In this country, we have labor issues because when our staff in this country have misbehave or have issues that they have to, and we have to go legal, we don't get justice, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can't continue when you even have evidences against them. So, okay, yeah, this growth is good, but how do we sustain it? I mean, we cannot do everything. So people are calling from Liberia, come and start your coffee shop in Liberia. So then I get up again and say, oh, let me register in Liberia and do everything. Oh, come to Kenya. And then I go to Kenya. And before you know it, you just realize you're recording numbers, but no progress. You're doing
Yeah.
everything, but nothing is happening. And then you get trained.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to have this understanding, maintain your stability, grow slowly, have your values. So I think in partnership, commitment to your values are very important. Respecting your commitment in the scheme of partnership, not growing too quickly to say, oh, I want to have 10 partnerships now and nothing is working in all the partnerships. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's very important. I think I think the dynamics, I guess, also of creating something sustainable within a not so structured environment like African commerce and African politics and also African judiciary, right? Because that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It also should be taken into account on what type of partners you should take on and what type of business you say no to, even though it's
Yeah.
lucrative, for the sake of
Yeah.
long-term success. I think
Yeah.
that's very, very important. I think that kind of leads me in a way to the next question regarding how have you managed to kind of sustain. I mean, you're in multiple countries, so how is life for you? Do you feel that you're overstretched, or how have you managed to delegate and ensure that things are still running smoothly? Apart from the obvious, right, which is you've created training programs, but I mean there are intangibles, right? So there are things that you essentially need to keep on top of. And what are some key things that you felt that has enabled you to really manage across multiple countries?
So yeah, delegation is I think I go back first to the first thing that the other thing I mentioned, which is putting in place putting in place systems,
Hmm.
right? It's not something that is very common with businesses in Africa and maybe small businesses around the world. You want to do many things without documentation. You do them by emotions. So I believe in this philosophy that you don't grow to manage,
Hmm.
you manage to grow. So you don't say, I become big, you know what, I'm going to start all those processes. Then you never start them, but you have to do them from the very go,
Yeah.
right? It does not mean that you have to do them big. I mean, it just means you have to start putting them in place. You don't want to, for example, we have corporate governance as a company, and it's not now. We have had it for years. Even when we didn't have, we had smaller operations, we always had our corporate governance. So documentation is very key to put in place systems. You have to put in place laws. Documentation are also working documents, right? So it means that as you expand, as things develop, you can improve on them. I mean, we have new challenges, we have new development, new expansion. You look at the document, oh, you need to add this clause, you need to add that clause, and now you have to put it in place. So for me, I think the foundation is you have to set systems, right? Depending on the kind of business you want to build. I knew that we're going to build a multinational business, a business that won't be beyond me and a business that will outlive me, right? So
Yeah.
for example, I mean, I'm building JR Farm in a way that after I'm gone on this earth, it continues, right? So, I mean, we delegate a lot to people. Everything is written, you read, you follow the instructions. If people make errors, you allow them to make errors. I mean, you correct them because myself, I make errors anyway. Yeah, so you correct
Yeah.
them and you move on. Yeah. So for me, putting in place a structure is really key. A lot of people ask me, how do you manage this? I mean, for me, it's not really complicated. Of course, it could be busy, but the systems are in place. I mean, sometimes there are times that I don't even talk to our team, let's say Nigeria, for days. I mean, and there are members of the team I don't even talk to. I don't even know them, right? I know that, okay, we have a staff called XYZ, but we have never seen them. We've never communicated. You appoint manager, you discuss with the manager, they trickle down. You have a leadership structure,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, I know this is not very common on the African side because we do a lot of micromanaging.
Yeah.
Which is, well, I mean, there are many reasons for that. I mean, you have also societal reasons for that. You're not very sure if you give this person a lot of power, how is it going to manage your business, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I mean, but you need to also be careful of your mental health, your physical health, because if you're stressed so much, it comes back to you, right? So, and if you're really going to build like a very big business, you cannot do everything by yourself. So for us, creating these systems is very important. We've been doing that from the get-go. We're still doing it. Secondly, is delegation. You have to delegate. You have to build structures. You have to delegate to people, and you have to allow them to make errors. You guide them, allow them make errors, and also investing in them. I mean, we have staff. You have to take them on trainings. You have to take them to workshops so that they learn, they see. Also, they have to travel. I mean, we give our staff travel opportunity. go and represent, go here for the company, go there for the company. So for me, these are ways that we've designed our business, and my own personal philosophy also reflects in it, because personally, I do not believe in micromanaging. Yeah, so in fact, when we have meetings, I tell our staff, or people who are joining us newly, I tell them, if you send me a message, I may not reply you, because you don't need to talk to me. Just marry your contract, right? I tell them, marry your contract. Your contract is what you're meant to do. You're not here to please the CEO. Don't send me messages all the time. Just marry your contract, understand your contract, know what you're meant to be doing, deliver it, right? You don't need to talk to me, right? If you deliver it, the system would do what is normal for you,
Yeah,
right? You don't need to talk to me at the end of the month to get your salaries. Everything works on its own. So you set in place the systems, right?
yeah.
And all you just do is just manage the system. So which is what we've been doing.
No, that's really awesome to hear, and I think it's so refreshing to hear an African-based business really take on best practice when it comes to overall workplace dynamics and ensuring that people are given the opportunity to be empowered, right? And I think that's very refreshing because, like you said, the lack of trust or the lack of systems around the business can create a sense of that you need to do the same within your business, and what you're basically saying is that no, you don't have to. You can definitely have a new system or have a system that is deemed empowering for the employees, and that is one of the main reasons, like you mentioned, right, that has caused the scaling to be not as stressful, or at least manageable and scalable. And I think that brings me to the next point, because given what you've managed to achieve so far and given your plans, how do you see commercial agriculture in Africa? And what are some of the constraints and enablers that will really ensure that there are many more JR farms and around the African continent that really brings about the potential of Africa being a powerhouse when it comes to agribusiness? What are some of the things that you see going forward that are either stopping us, right, from getting to that place, but also enabling us and opportunities that can get us to that place?
Yeah. So, to the first state, commercial agriculture is a no-brainer. Africa cannot continue to rely on smallholder farmers. They would always be there, don't get me wrong, but for us to feed the continent, to create wealth from agriculture, we need to do commercial agriculture.
Yeah.
I give you an example. You take countries like Zambia, for example, you see a lot of commercial farms. Some big factories in Zambia only work with two, three commercial farms to supply their raw materials, because these are farms as high or as big as 200 kilometers, right? So
Mm.
this is the kind of farms. The smallholder farmers will be there, but the commercial farming is very, very important. For me, the enablers, of course, we have a very, very, young population for me, which is very good,
Hmm.
which is a good indication. Of course, labor, very active people, and also very wide market, because the food market in Africa is very big, and it's still growing, and it's also changing, right?
Mm.
With the influence of social media, internet, our menu, our choice of food, how the food is served, how it's packaged, many things are changing around the African continent. So this I see like key enablers, and I also see in the political framework, for example, with the African Free Trade Agreement, is a major development that will really foster intra-African development, right? Because with that framework, and we see more and more countries are giving up their visas. So Africans can come to other African countries without visa. For example, I know of Rwanda.
Yeah.
Ghana also announced few weeks
Correct.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will really aid development of agri-food and development of agri-food trade around the continent.
Hmm.
Because, like I always tell people, the movement of goods starts with free movement of people, because
Yeah.
the goods are not going to move on their own.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
so if I can't move, my goods cannot move,
Good point.
right? So if I'm a pilot or a sailor or a logistics guy who is going to drive a truck, and I need a visa to go to take my truck from Rwanda, for example, to Tanzania, then it becomes very complicated, right? It reduces my opportunities, or exposure, So I think this political framework of the African Union is also very good, and when it's fully implemented, I think it will also really develop or accelerate the growth of commercial agriculture in Africa because people will be free. I mean, there will be stronger corporations within government. And we also have interesting projects like the African Rail project, which I think is funded by the African Development Bank. You see, so to connect Africa by rail. These are also indications that will really help. And also the single currency that been talked about, right? Because a lot of times, if you have to move, for example, I give this example, if you have to go from Nigeria to Cote d'Ivoire by road, it's very complicated. You have to go, for example, from Nigeria to Benin, you have to change to CFA, the Benin Republic CFA. You go
Yeah.
to cross to Togo, you change to the Togolese CFA. Then you go from Togo to Ghana, you have to change to CDs, and then you go from Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire, you get the Ivorian CFA. I mean, these are just neighbors. I mean, this
Yeah.
is just about less than 24 hours of driving,
Yeah.
right? And you already changed about 3 or 4 currencies. I've got my friends traveling from Ivorians. Currently, they're in Nigeria on a visit. And 4 days ago, she was like, "Oh, why do we change money?" I mean, normally, why should you change money? If you're coming from Cote d'Ivoire to Nigeria, we should have a single currency that you can easily just use anywhere you are on the continent, right? Yeah. So for me, I think this conversation around, I know that ECOWAS, it's quite advanced. They're talking about the ECO,
Hmm.
the single currency. Hopefully, in the coming years or coming months, it will be effective. But these are really important indicators that will really promote agri-food development, agri-food trade within the continent. Yeah. So Africa would really, it's very apparent Africa is new frontier of the world. We see the whole scramble for Africa nowadays. China is coming, Russia is coming, America is coming,
Yeah.
European Union is coming. Everybody wants to get something in Africa. This tells you that there's a lot of opportunities on the continent. Yeah.
Mm.
So investment effort. I mean, despite the challenges, I mean, there are challenges everywhere anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
despite the challenges, you know that this is where the future is. This is where the food future of the world. This is where it is. Yeah, and the
Yeah.
future is not a time that is yet to come. The future is what we are meant to be doing that we're yet to do. So,
Yeah.
and the moment we realize we have to do it, so now we realize that okay, Africa is the next frontier. Then we key to it.
Yeah, this has been an amazing conversation, and I know we are about to end, and I wanted to end on this note. Let's just say hypothetically, right? I have a plot of land, and many of us who live, in the diaspora, live in Europe, wherever, we do have other family land or whatever the case may be, and oftentimes agriculture or starting something in agriculture is always a topic, right? As you know, but according to you, right? What are some key steps to ensure that you have the best chance of making this agricultural business a success? What would you say? Is it even possible? And if it is, what are some key elements that you should never forget, at least the initial stage, that will really ensure that you have a good path forward?
First, I would say it's knowledge. You need to invest a lot in knowledge. Yeah, because you need to know what you're doing and what the whole sector is all about.
Hmm.
Yeah, so you have to invest a lot in knowledge. You go for trainings, talk to people, get information. Don't underplay that; is very important. Secondly, you have to start small. I mean, starting small is also relative because
Mm.
starting small for Olawale could be starting something of $5,000, but starting small for Dangote or Bill Gates could be,
Yes.
yeah, could be doing something of $1 billion. So it's
Yeah.
relative to your pocket and to your size.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's always good to start small because I always tell people it's easier to fail. I mean, it's easier to learn with something small than to learn with big. So
Yeah.
if you're facing challenges with something small, you can always manage, maneuver, and be good. But if you're doing the same with something big, it could be challenging. So I always advise people start small. Don't get involved in complexities and all that. Yeah. So start something small. Document your journey is very important. Network with industry partners, right?
Hmm.
Is very important. It's also very important to stay very true to standard. A lot of times people start very well. I've seen many agribusinesses start on the continent. Some are very nice products. First 1 year, first 2 years, everything is okay. But they start getting the ground, and the next thing, all the product quality deep, and yeah. So you need to stay very true to the vision, to the focus, and yeah. So for me, that would be it.
Wow. No, thanks again, Olawale. I mean, this has been really, really good, just in terms of just your understanding, but also the practicalities of moving emotions out of this, right? I think that is so important for a sustainable business, never mind whether it's in agriculture, just in any business. And from what
Yeah.
I heard from you today is just just do what is right without necessarily putting emotions into your decisions, because that will not be sustainable long term or scalable.
Mm.
And these are important lessons, at least for me, and hopefully for those who will be listening and watching this podcast, that Africans can do it. Africans can just not feed Africans, but feed Europeans and bring and go toe to toe with any other producers around the world, and even on food. And I think that is so key, that it doesn't not only have to do with tech or apps or fintech, but it can be as simple as coffee, can be as
Mm.
simple as tomatoes,
Yeah.
and that is very, very refreshing. Thank you so much, Olawale, for really coming onto the show and sharing your stories.
No, thank you so much for having me. Have a nice time.
And there you have it, an amazing conversation with Olawale, a pioneer of agribusiness, of best practice, of Africa can do it, Africa can feed the world, and African can bring solutions to the world. Thank you so much for watching. This was another episode of African Tech Stories. I'm Dr. Polan Kantwe. Until next time, ciao.